I want to start with something small. A hotel bill, not a blueprint, not a patent. An unpaid bill for a room at the Waldorf-Astoria in New York, accumulated across roughly 2 decades by a man who had once been the most celebrated engineer in America, and who by then could not pay it. That bill is why the tower came down. Not a government order, not a corporate raid, not a conspiracy in any sense that would satisfy someone looking for one. A hotel wanted its money, and the only asset the man had left was a 200-foot structure on Long Island that had never been switched on. In July of 1917, a demolition crew arrived at Shoreham and brought down Wardenclyffe Tower for scrap. The structure sold for less than the debt it was meant to cover, and the thing it had been built to test, whether electrical power could be transmitted through the earth itself to anyone, anywhere, without wires and without a meter, was never tested. The document exists. The follow-up does not. Most people who know Tesla's name know the myth. The lone genius, the free energy machine, the suppression, and I want to be careful here, because that version does something I do not think is honest. It answers the one question that was never asked. Nobody knows whether Wardenclyffe would have worked. Not his defenders, not his critics, not me. The experiment was not conducted. What I can tell you is what was built, what it was for, who paid for it, and precisely when the money stopped. All of that is documented. And when I went through the correspondence, the property records, and the engineering specifications, what I found was stranger than the myth, because it is smaller. Wardenclyffe was not a modest structure. The tower stood 187 feet above the ground, topped by a 55-ton steel dome. Beneath it, a shaft descended 120 feet into the earth, with iron pipes driven a further 300 feet down into the bedrock below that. Add those together. More of this structure went down into the ground than stood above it. 420 feet below the surface, 187 above. Hold on to that detail. We are going to come back to it, and when we do, it is going to matter more than anything else in this story. That was not foundation engineering. No tower of that size requires 400 feet of anchoring. Tesla's design required electrical contact with the Earth. He described the planet as a conductor. The pipes were not holding the tower up. They were the point of it. The architect was Stanford White, the most prominent architect in America, who designed it without charge because he believed in what it was for. The primary investor was John Pierpont Morgan, who committed $150,000 in 1901, roughly $5 million in today's money. Morgan's money was committed on the understanding that Wardenclyffe was a telecommunications project. Wireless telegraphy, messages across the Atlantic competing with Marconi. That is what the contract described, and that is what Morgan believed he was funding. Tesla's actual ambition was considerably larger, and he had published it openly. He intended the tower to transmit not just signals, but power, electrical energy distributed through the ground, drawn down anywhere on Earth by anyone with a receiver. Morgan stopped funding the project. Tesla wrote to him repeatedly. The letters survive, and in places they are difficult to read. A proud man asking, then explaining, then pleading. Morgan did not put more money in. The record stops here, not because the correspondence ends, because after a certain point only one side is writing. There is a line that appears in almost every popular telling of this story. Morgan, on understanding what Tesla actually intended, is supposed to have said, "Where do I put the meter?" I have looked for that quote. I cannot find it in any contemporary document. It does not appear in the surviving Morgan-Tesla correspondence. It does not appear in Morgan's papers. It appears to be a 20th century invention, repeated until it acquired the texture of a primary source. I'm telling you this because the story is stronger without it. The quote makes Morgan a cartoon. What the record actually shows is a financier who had contracted for one thing, discovered he was funding another, and declined to continue. The word that appears in the record is not suppressed. It is abandoned. And that word is doing an enormous amount of quiet work. Abandoned by whom? Tesla did not abandon it. He spent another 15 years trying to raise money to finish it. He kept the property. He kept the plans. The tower was still standing, unfinished, when the demolition crew arrived. Abandoned describes what the funding did, not what the man did. But it is the funding's word that made it into the history. Here is something that surprised me, and it cuts against the version of this story I expected to find. Tesla's Colorado Springs experiments of 1899 are the foundation of the entire Wardenclyffe claim. Publicly, he described those results with enormous confidence. Standing waves in the Earth, transmission without loss, a planetary system waiting to be tapped. His own notebooks from that period read differently. Published in full in 1978, they contain a man working through problems he has not solved, measurements he questions, interpretations he revises, instruments he does not fully trust. The certainty came later. It came in the press releases and the funding proposals, documents written to persuade rather than to record. Tesla, in his own laboratory, was more careful about Tesla's results than Tesla in public was. And a century of people arguing about this on both sides have been arguing about the press releases. So what was that 420 feet of iron actually for? What if the shaft was not infrastructure but instrument? What if the depth was chosen, not estimated? What if Tesla was not building a transmitter at all, but a probe? Something to find out what the Earth would do when you pushed current into it at that depth? What if the tower on top was the part that did not matter? I do not know. Nobody does. The shaft was never energized at full scale, and no comparable structure has been built since. Nobody went back to check. Now, this is the point where the standard counter-argument arrives, and I want to give it a fair hearing because I think it is probably right. The counter-argument is that Wardenclyffe would not have worked, not because it was suppressed, not because Morgan pulled out, because the physics does not permit it. Transmitting usable power through the Earth's crust over intercontinental distances involves losses so severe that the energy arriving would be a vanishing fraction of the energy sent. The Colorado Springs results. Tesla, cited as proof, have been re-examined by physicists and engineers, and the consensus is that he misread what he was measuring. I take that seriously. I want to take it seriously. The people making that argument are not defending a cover-up. They are doing arithmetic, and their arithmetic is better than mine. But here is the part the arithmetic does not settle. Every one of those calculations is a calculation about a machine that was never switched on. We are extremely confident about the outcome of an experiment that nobody ran. And this is where that detail comes back. 420 feet of iron driven into bedrock at enormous cost by a man who was running out of money. Whatever else Tesla was wrong about, He was not casually wrong. He spent what he did not have putting metal into the ground for a reason he had worked out and written down. And the ground portion, the part he cared most about, the part that cost the most, the part that made this different from every other tower on Earth, was never once tested at full power. The tower came down. The shaft is still there. The site outlived almost everyone involved. For decades, the brick laboratory was a photographic processing plant with chemicals stored on the ground above the shaft. The property was eventually designated a contaminated site. In 2012, a non-profit bought it, funded largely by public donation. It is a museum now. Some of the original tunnel work appears to survive. Nobody has attempted to energize it. Nobody is going to. I want to end somewhere other than blame, because I do not think blame is where this story lives. The version that circulates most widely is a story about theft. A great man had a gift for humanity, and a powerful man took it away. It is satisfying. It has a villain and a martyr and a clear moral. And the more time I spent in the documents, the less I could make it fit. Wardenclyffe did not end in a conspiracy. It ended the way things end. It ended the way projects end when the money stops and the man cannot replace it. It ended the way ideas end when the only person who fully understands them runs out of years. It ended the way questions end when answering them costs more than anyone is willing to spend. Or it ended the way inconvenient things end when nobody has to decide anything at all, when it is enough that nobody pays. I am not going to tell you which of those it was. I am not sure I know. What I will tell you is this. The men who let it fail were probably right. The physics likely never would have worked. Tesla likely was wrong, but he was wrong about something enormous, and he was never given the chance to find out how wrong, and the not knowing is now permanent. 420 feet of iron are still in the ground at Shoreham, Long Island. They have been there for 120 years. Nobody has ever put current through them. The absence is the record. If the questions that were never settled, the ones nobody had to bury because nobody bothered to answer them, are the kind of history you want more of, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.